Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Amarillo, Paramore, Bohannon's, San Antonio, and so much more, with today's guest, Mr. Christopher Ware of Azar Distilling, one of the big powerhouses, behemoth of personalities and minds behind the San Antonio cocktail scene, and he's recently transitioned into the on- and off-premise market with Azar Distilling, talking about Seersucker Gin. It's been an incredible journey for Chris, and it was a pleasure talking to him about language, about politics, about details. He is one of the smartest and most eloquent guys I have talked to yet, and it was really great getting to know his approach and paradigm on life, learning, relationships, and to know that at the center of it all, he's just a good, fun-loving dad. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed this great chat with Mr. Christopher Ware.
So these are Balcones Rumble barrels, Balcones single malt barrels. They're 20-liter versions, and there's 3 Ranger Creek, roughly 25-liter barrels in there. Mm-hmm. So I'm dropping these off here, and these are going to make their way to Amarillo, of all places.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's a guy up there who is now doing a barrel program up there.
Oh, killer.
So I've been kind of guiding him into showing him what I do. And he's doing the exact same thing.
You're handing it off.
Uh-huh.
So what I thought, because I know you've been behind the bar for so long and kind of stepping out from beyond that these barrels, in a way, you transitioning them and handing them off, felt to me kind of like a swan song, right? Like that this is, it is illustrative of your transition from behind the bar. Like this is the last vestige, and so you're moving on.
Well, the last vestige for now.
Yeah.
Just for now. But it definitely feels that way, that I can help someone else further their career and answer their questions, because they got into it just by reading, and then they kind of found me, even though we were friends for a long time. They didn't really know, and then they read an article and my name popped up, and he was like, why am I not talking to my old friend?
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
And so I just started guiding him, showing what I was doing. And how I even got into it in the first place was when I was the head bartender at Bohannon's. Mm-hmm. And that was still in like the very heyday of Sasha coming down and showing us everything.
Yeah.
And I was the San Antonio ambassador. They were calling us whiskey ambassadors for Angel's Envy.
Okay.
And so by working for Lincoln, going up to Kentucky all the time, and just learning the different nuances on barrels. And after we actually visited the Brown Foreman cooperage, that's when I wanted to get into it.
Really?
And someone gave me a barrel. I started thinking about it, and I started reading. I started trying to do a lot of research, but this was like back in 2011. Mm. And I think there was maybe like 2 or 3 places that you could actually find on the internet that were doing, but there wasn't a lot of information.
Yeah.
And so I was, fortunately, in contact with Lincoln Henderson, asking him questions about wood and maturation.
He was pretty transparent guy, right?
He was extremely transparent. I actually got out of him in a car ride where the Angel's Envy juice was coming from.
No shit.
And
is it the same? Well, let's put it this way: is it the same place now as when he disclosed it?
It is, except for they're running out of that juice.
I see.
And so they had to source it from elsewhere. And
no kidding.
His son Wes,
right?
Everyone knows Wes. Looked in the rearview mirror and said, "Shut the fuck up, Dad." So. And I said, I got him.
Dude, there's always those moments. Just like, you just got to be paying attention, but someone will reveal something.
Yeah.
But I mean, speaking of transparency, which I think is a really wonderful thing in this industry, and you paying it forward with these barrels and stuff, that's a kind of extending it. That's kind of transparency. How do you feel about the smoke and mirrors with whiskey? Like, I talked to someone from Michter's one time, and they just won't ever say where this juice is made, even though I could count on 2 hands how many places could have potentially made it. Maybe even 1 hand.
from a marketing standpoint, I understand it.
Yeah.
So for 99.99 repeating of the population in the world, they have no idea.
They don't give a shit, do they?
And they're just going from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally put crap in a bag and put a good label on it and tell them what they're doing.
Right.
And they're willing to do anything that you tell them to. I mean, that's just really the nature of human beings and a mob mentality.
Absolutely.
But for people that are actually in the know and people that actually take it seriously, like you, myself, and, the vast amount of bartenders and liquid professionals in the world, we really want to know that stuff because we geek out to it.
Yeah.
And not in a bad way. It just helps us, teach other people what they should have or should not have.
Absolutely.
In our opinion. But then, even though I don't think someone should be drinking something, I'm not going to criticize or downplay what they have because there's beauty in all things.
Of course. Teach their own, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with a lot of people about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But God bless them for being different at least.
Yeah. I mean, that's what America's built on. Hopefully, that's what we try to keep going in our core values.
Yeah.
But as for the whiskey industry, the guys that actually are transparent, that's when I find myself more able to actually promote their products and more willing to teach other people versus the guys that are saying, well, we have our house recipe, we have this.
Right.
And
evading.
You can tell
pretty
blatantly what they're doing, even if they're not willing to tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can have their house recipe and like not tell you like 3 ingredients like your grandmother's cookie recipe.
Sure. And that's I'm all right with that.
You can keep that hidden. No, that's no problem. But don't sit there and try to like tell us, well, it's a blend of 4 to 19-year-old whiskeys. And we're not going to reveal what's the core. Or we're not going to tell you what barrels are aged in. We're not going to tell you where the ricks are.
Right.
I mean, because there's people that work there, it's going to get out.
Yeah, of course.
Just the more open you're going to be, the better off for you that is. Because, in this day and age, there's so much information. It's going to get out there.
So when you think about, and we'll talk about this kind of latest chapter as now kind of representing Azar Distilling, but when it comes to transparency there, did you take some of those things that you learned that you didn't like about salespeople and apply them to you?
Most definitely.
Yeah. You knew it's like dating, right? Like, wow, I did that once. I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's like watching the rep come in and cheat on you.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're like, well, I'm not going to cheat on the people I know or
that's
people
right,
I meet in the future.
It's good. Well, it's an interesting piece to be behind the bar for so long, and I really want to dive into kind of how this all came about, really.
Yeah.
And were you born and raised in Amarillo?
I was.
Amarillo, right?
Well, Amarillo.
Yellow.
I was born there. I was raised there. Came from a ranching and oil and gas family.
Yeah.
I went off to military school at New Mexico Military Institute, but I graduated.
Was it the one in Roswell?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was born in Roswell, actually.
Yeah.
I knew a bit about that school.
Yeah, I loved it. Like it was a family tradition for males to go off to military school.
No kidding. So how old what is the typical age when you're kind of sent off to this school?
14.
14.
14.
And to you as a 14-year-old, if people told me what to do when I was 14, I'd be a punk about it. But for you, is it kind of the tradition? Did you even embrace it then?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. What about it do you love?
Well, I guess growing up, when you're when you're out in Amarillo and you get to go out to the country and go play out in the middle of nowhere, you find something to do. And I always kind of fell in love with like the romanticism of not only like warfare and generals and all that fun
strategy
stuff.
Too.
Yeah. So I just kind of someday thought that I was going to go in the military, which I did.
Yeah. And
I loved it, but it was like following that family tradition and knowing your family heritage. And I was like, my family was always saying, "This is what your family did."
How far back, if you know?
Oh, it goes back to like the 14th, 13th centuries.
Holy shit! Are you kidding me?
So
that's incredible. Where is your family from then? If you go back that far,
Scotland and England.
Amazing.
But then, obviously, there's some French components, and then later in the 19th century. Norwegian components.
Really?
So
you guys make good soldiers. Jesus, strong and smart and civilized.
Like my dad's side, when they immigrated in the latter part of the 19th century, they moved into New Mexico and they had a ranch there.
Really?
My family, on my mother's side, you can trace them back to right around the 1630s, 1640s, wow. and into Georgia, and then all the way into the Northeast, and kind of mingled in.
That's a brilliant thing. So it's nice to feel like you come from someplace. Right?
Yeah.
And so you just kind of wore that badge pretty proudly, and you did it.
I'm extremely proud of it.
How long was that program?
Well, I was at military school for 3 years, but I ended up coming back my junior year and my senior year and graduating from Tascosa in Amarillo. But then I joined the Marine Corps, and I was in, one day out of high school graduation, I was in boot camp.
But that was last senior year. I mean, that was what you wanted to do.
Oh, I knew I was going to do it. I did it the day of my 18th birthday when signed up.
Wow.
But
that's incredible.
I joined this program. It was called PLC, candidacy. So it's like a platoon leader course.
Uh-huh.
So you go up to boot camp, you come back, you go to college, and then your next summer you go to your MOS school.
Okay.
So your military occupation school. Then you come back and you go back in the reserves for 9 months, and you go back on to your next MOS school, or you go to OCS for officer candidacy school.
Really? So is it ultimately that they're trying to make you as intelligent of a soldier as possible, set up like a leadership program?
Yeah. So you actually see exactly what the enlisted guys are doing versus the officers. So you get a balance of seeing what the entire Marine Corps is actually made up of.
That's
so you're
incredible.
a more well-balanced officer from an infantry standpoint.
Interesting.
So because all Marines are infantry,
sure.
And if you actually understand what the boots on the ground from the private side knows, you're going to be able to more well relate to that gentleman.
Yeah. So
I never really thought of it. Actually,
that's
kind of works from my side now.
Yeah. Well, because I'm saying there's a hell of a parallel.
Yeah.
Right? Learning how to man the troops, getting them in the right places at the right times to deal with the customers, the offensive, the defensive. So were you ultimately deployed anywhere?
Yes. I was in Iraq. I went to Fallujah. I was there for a little over 10 months. I came back in, I came back in country October of 2015.
Yeah.
2005.
Wow.
Yeah, 2005.
So you're about 23-ish, 24, something like that?
I was.
Because you're 81,
I was
right?
like 20. Yeah, 23.
Yeah. It's a hard age to kind of come to terms with stuff.
Yeah, I mean, especially because here I am joining the Marines, and I thought I was gonna be an officer, and no, I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah, thought I was gonna be an officer, and they put a stop loss, all of that, and started gearing us up to go to Iraq, and dropping right in the middle of Fallujah, and it's a completely different scenario. So you
can't read about it, can you? Can't study for that.
No.
Yeah.
No. But it was a great talking piece in college.
I bet.
Especially in the bars. It's I'm gonna be gone pretty soon.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. We gotta make tonight count.
Exactly, right.
Man, make tonight count.
So, but when I came back, and I realized, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't really respect it as much as I did now. Yeah. Looking back on it,
you talking about the?
I almost wish I would have stayed in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't be at where I am now. So it kind of made the person that I am. But I also had some really great teachers after I came back. More help relate my experiences over there to real life world. I had this tremendous teacher who was he was a Vietnam War literature teacher at Tech, and so Tech has the best school for Vietnam in the entire United States.
Really,
no one really knows about it. And here's this teacher, and one day we were having a conversation, and I kind of jumped on another student, saying y'all have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Coming from a guy who has seen combat and done all that fun stuff, and kind of jumping on them. And he just kind of told me, you just need to be quiet. And so,
really?
Yeah. After class, I went by, and he was like, "You think that you had a hard time?" His entire family was actually knocked out in an arc light strike, outside of Hanoi in the 73 bombings by Nixon.
So he's got a lot of
So if I can talk about people that I know and I've lost, and his entire family was wiped out in a heartbeat.
That's incredible.
So I was like, you know what? It's completely different.
Did you guys have a different relationship after?
Oh yeah, he was a fantastic guy. I mean, this was a North Vietnamese regular.
Yeah.
So
wow,
teaching in Texas.
Yeah, that's so strange, right? You wouldn't think that just this nugget of that kind of rich experience exists at Tech, dude. I mean,
you would think USC,
right?
Maybe Berkeley,
seven like that.
Washington,
maybe even NYU or something, right?
NYU,
Penn,
somewhere like that. Not Tech. But Tech really had these great programs, especially that was one of them. And he really helped me kind of, work my way back into like the civilian mode.
Right.
And become the happy, jovial guy that everyone kind of knows me as.
How long do you think it took to kind of, quote unquote, adapt back?
About 2 years.
2 years.
About 2 years.
I mean, without going into detail, because I never ever want to, if there is trauma, sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. But like, how tough was it being out there? Was it a difficult thing to see?
It was culture shock.
Yeah.
It was definitely a culture shock. And mainly it was just the oppressing poverty.
Yeah.
And seeing that people over there's no way in hell that people can say that they have the same opportunities that anyone else in the world is. I mean, not only like the religious persecution, but also like the class warfare that exists.
Sure.
People over there, they truly believe that, a guy like Saddam was great for them because you need that strong warlord to actually keep people in check.
God, that's crazy.
Just the religious identity. We like to talk about the Christian extreme right in this country, even though we can argue that all day long.
Sure.
It's good or bad depending on who we are. Over there, it's just it's an everyday occurrence.
Yeah.
If you go outside and you do anything incorrect, you're gonna get stoned, or you're gonna get stoned to death, or you're gonna get killed. Your family's gonna get killed. It's an all encompassing, part of their life.
Did it make thinking about it now, you're a little bit wiser. I think you're 35 now. Yeah.
35. Just turned 35.
In December, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember dates for some strange reason. We were talking about stuff that goes out of your head, so I'll just remember it now, and then that'll be it. But like coming back, and obviously we'll tie this back into how you entered hospitality. But when you look at people and you think of the 99%, which in a sense is kind of a generalization for people that maybe aren't as like really into the nuanced experiences of life. They're just kind of wandering around, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like that. Did you feel different about Americans in general when you came back? That were potentially lazy, potentially ineffectual.
Lazy, also not aware
of
how much we do have and how much we waste.
Oh yeah.
How much opportunity we have versus anywhere else in the world. It is a drastic difference going into any other country in the world, even a Western European country.
Sure.
Where you think they have just as much opportunity. They really don't. I mean, America is America for a reason. And you need to fight to keep it that way.
Yeah.
We keep progressing, and the melting pot that we are and bringing all these cultures together only helps increase that.
Yeah.
That is like the American ethos and the mystique across the world. You can't go into Europe and act this way. You can't go into South America and act this way.
Right.
Africa, Asia, nowhere else. Only in America can Canada too. Can this many cultures like come together and work their way in? I mean, people that are coming in, immigrating now, their next generation, they're going to be Americanized.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're not going to be...
They'll be stripped of that cultural identity.
Yeah, they're not going to have that cultural identity coming from Singapore, the Philippines, or Uzbekistan, France, wherever. They might know about it and respect it, but the next generation, they're going to be Americanized. The generation after that, they are full-blown Americans.
Yeah. It's a strange thing to think we transform that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we all kind of started that way. My parents and then their parents, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Well, so then it begs the question, when did you finish up at Tech?
2007, my undergrad, and then 2009, my master's.
What did you do your master's in?
History.
History. Any particular type of history?
British Empire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Did you read a bit about gin and the spice trade?
Oh, of course.
Of course. A nice thread through the whole story.
East India Trade Company, how it all comes together.
Speaking of which, have you watched Taboo? Have you heard of this show, Taboo?
No, I have not.
That is exactly about the East India Trading Company and how they did some shit, and Tom Hardy worked for them. And it's a BBC show that was on the FX. Absolutely worth checking out, especially paying homage to gin, slavery, unfortunately, too. But something worth checking out, especially if you have that interest.
I definitely want to check it out now.
So when you have those degrees and you're studying history, I mean, ultimately teaching is one end game. What was it for you?
I always thought I wanted to be a professor from being very little. Either I was going to be a professor or a career military officer. But then, as I got into it, I realized that professors don't make any money.
No.
You don't make any money.
They get all the respect, kind of,
Yeah.
for a classroom setting.
And so then I thought, okay, I'm gonna be a lawyer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Would a tort or?
Well, the joke was always, I'm gonna be a divorce lawyer because you can make a lot of money and get girls in the rebound.
Ah, that's brilliant. That's a great strategy.
But that's a bad joke.
It's unethical, but it's a good strategy.
It was just a cheap joke that you can make in a bar when you're 25 years old.
They'll think, oh, he's so charming.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was a bad joke. But, I mean, really, at that time, I thought I'd be a lawyer because I thought that I'd be good at it.
Yeah.
However, once I kind of finished my master's, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife,
Oh, great.
we decided to take a trip to go down to San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl.
Okay.
And Tech was playing Michigan State. We were kind of late on booking our room downtown, so everything was sold out.
Yeah.
And we found a bed and breakfast in King William, the area right south of downtown.
Yeah.
And so we booked a B&B, came down, went to the game, ended up loving it so much, we ended up staying an extra 4 days. And everyone was so nice. Everyone was so gracious. Everyone was so willing to talk to us, introduce, show off San Antonio as a city.
They're proud of it there.
They're extremely proud of it. That we were like, let's move here.
No shit, just like that.
So we walked around the neighborhood, found a house, called the landlord, convinced them to let us rent the place. And we were down in San Antonio on February 15th.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So pretty within a few months, I guess, yeah?
Like less than like a month and 5 days we were in San Antonio.
Good God. That's incredible.
It was awesome.
So match made in heaven.
Match made in heaven. Didn't have a job. Didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to go work in oil or cattle industry or something.
Right.
So I was like looking around after like 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, time to get a job. Or after about a week, it's like, okay, I need to get a job while I find what I'm going to do.
Right. Transitional thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe I'll bartend. Never bartended a day in my life.
Did anybody in the family bartend?
No one. Ever.
Nothing.
No.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, just like I'll be a bartender. I was really good at bars in college. Went to a lot of them. Went to a ton of them.
I suppose that counts, right? As air miles or something.
So, but I knew that I did not want to go into a bar where I had to deal with people like myself in college.
Give me just 2 bullet points of the kind of guy you were in college at a bar.
Okay. Well, if you're going to a college bar, I would go to the bar. I would get it will also depend on the special that night, of course.
Of course.
But the go-to drink was always a Coors Light and a double turkey and a splash of 7.
Nice.
I had no idea. I'm in college. And so I could go into a bar, spend $20, and be
set.
Yeah, pretty well done for the night.
Yeah.
And then just continue just to go and go and go. Under $50, I had a great night.
Yeah. That's not bad.
So I just knew that like the antics and the stuff that I pulled.
Did you get in bar brawls? Are you a prankster or a fighter?
Oh, I never got into a bar brawl.
Okay.
Never even occurred to me. Never even.
That's good. You're a peaceful guy.
I did some dumb stuff before.
Well, of course.
That definitely almost got in a fight with a linebacker one time.
Oh, shit.
Almost got into a fight with like a whole bunch of guys one time in an alley.
It's because you're smart, right? Like you mouth off.
Oh yeah,
that's what
I made fun of him. I just made fun of him, and then when I wanted to fight, I made fun of him some more. And just, what the new term everyone likes to use, troll him.
Yeah,
let's troll him. And I'm like, what are you gonna do?
That shit. You started trolling in person.
Yeah, it's like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, whatever.
That's good. That's the best part of being smart. So does that mean then the kind of bar that you were thinking about working at, maybe a little bit more sophisticated, maybe a more cocktail driven?
I knew I was going. I didn't even honestly.
Didn't think about it.
I didn't know what a cocktail was.
Really?
No, I had zero idea what a cocktail was.
Well, it wasn't a big thing just yet, was it?
Well, I mean, when you're coming from Lubbock, Texas,
that's true too,
and all you're doing is drinking in cocktail bars, in college bars.
Right.
You're just drinking whiskey and beer.
And
and shots of tequila.
Did your folks drink? Did they ever have a sense like sometimes Manhattans make it play? You know?
No, I mean no one in my family. I mean, we had a lot of drinkers.
Sure.
I remember one time going out to the ranch when I was like 10 years old, and my mom like pouring out I think what it equated to, I was told later in life, was like $10,000 in alcohol.
Oh my gosh.
Because one of the family members who used a company ranch card to go buy all this booze for a bunch of parties.
No.
It was like a bunch of hunting parties.
Yeah.
And it was on the company, and I guess like alcoholism was so bad in the family for so long.
Right.
She was sick and tired of it and just poured it all out.
Jesus.
So
It's a good story. Well, if anything, it's a cautionary tale.
yeah, so no one drank.
Yeah.
I drank in high school, and I never got in trouble for it. And I drank a lot in college.
As you do.
Yeah, of course. Have a lot of dumb stories about drinking too much in college. Probably not good for a podcast.
Trolling and not fight. I mean, that's good. I think that gives us a good essence of the college. You know, the college.
I had an amazing college experience.
Yeah. Well, I like that.
I would always go back.
So how do you land? Like,
So
what's that first
I decided
kind of
that I
gig?
didn't want to work in any place I had to deal with myself in college.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, I'll find a steakhouse.
That makes some sense.
So
yeah.
I just go online, started looking at steakhouses. We had a Palm. I've been to a Palm. We had a Morton's. We had these places that I kind of heard of, but so I applied. And then there was a place for Bohannon's.
Yeah.
And it was a steakhouse. I kind of looked at the reviews. They were great. I applied for it, and I got a call back. It was the first place that called me back.
Really?
And so I walked in, and they asked if I had bartended, and I immediately said, yes, I have. And they're like, well, what's your experience? I'm like, I do a lot of time in bars. They're like, but I'm well educated. I was in the Marines. I can do whatever you want me to do.
Absolutely. You're malleable.
And so they went, okay, perfect. You're hired.
That's crazy to fall like in that place at that time.
It was.
Because you had no idea what
No
it was.
idea.
Right? Yeah.
I had zero idea. It was just meant to be. Because the very next day, the Palm called me back. Very next day after that, Morton's called me back.
Oh, man.
But I was like, sorry, I've already accepted a job at Bohannon's. I went in. First day I walked in, they said, go home. I didn't shave my beard.
Oh, shit.
I was really bummed about that.
Beard like you have now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it never.
I'd be real bummed.
Always been like clear cut or clean cut with the beard. But, you know, being in the military for military school and military, no facial hair.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, okay, I get it.
Well, you've been there before, right?
Yeah.
People tell you how to do it.
Shaved, went back to work. And all I did was just cocktail on the floor of Bohannon's down in the bar downstairs for, a month and a half. Never even got behind the bar. Just kind of learned. I would just go home, read about every single spirit, took the book home, and just treat it like those back in college, which I wish bartenders would do now.
Right. Be erudite about it.
Take the spirit list home every day. Read about 5. Learn as much as you can about that 5.
Yeah.
Then go to work, ask if you can try it. I could try it. So I got to try in just shy of like 2 months, 650 different spirits.
That's incredible.
Now, did I have a respect for them? Hell no.
Not yet.
My
right?
palate wasn't built for it. I remember the first joke they played on me. They were all drinking a, I'm trying to remember the beer. It was like a $60 beer on the menu. A Belgian 750. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I'll think of it later.
Something nice.
But they were all drinking that, and they poured me a Miller Lite or a Coors Light with bitters in it.
Oh, God.
And they're like, what do you think? I was like, it's pretty good. They're like, Coors Light. I was like, I'll drink it right now. I have no problem.
Give me another. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just go home and just read. And then a month later, Sasha pops up. I don't know who Sasha is. I've never even heard of the guy.
Yeah.
Then they start, explaining the history. And so I started going back, and he starts throwing out names, opens up an entire new door, and I just started reading and trying to get as much information I could.
A deep interest in history, right?
Yeah.
So it is absolutely history.
It's all
Whiskey is history.
It's all history.
All of it, right?
Bartending is history.
Absolutely. And so that's obviously a piece that probably appealed to you. Is that there was no end to the amount you could learn about it.
Never. I mean, it's an ever-evolving historical record.
Yeah.
New things are constantly popping up every day.
Sure.
New ideas of like where the cocktail started, how long is the oldest recipe, who can claim fame to it. When was the first like true cocktail golden age? Was it in the 1820s and 30s and 40s, or was it really in the 1870s and 80s?
Right.
When was it? And so it depends on who you talk to.
Sure.
And also, you start to from that point, you start to see what end game are they trying to get at?
What do you mean exactly? Is it?
Well, some guys will, if they're claiming the 1870s and 80s, I feel like they're trying to harken back to their geographical area and give credence to their city or their region.
I see.
Versus other people, if they're saying the 1820s, 30s, and 40s, they're trying to give it credence to their area. It's a pride thing.
Yeah, home turf kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's no, it started here.
Interesting. I never even thought about it that way.
And so if you can kind of pick through people's what's their end game, you can kind of find out what are they really trying to promote.
Interesting. Wow. I never thought about that.
And that's what really, the same thing with spirits, the same thing with beer, same thing with everything. But if you just kind of look at it, you take it for what it is and say, okay, I like your point of view. I'm going to incorporate that into the rest of my little jargon, my spiel that I can go out and teach people about, and not actually make it a definitive claim, but actually say, maybe this is this, maybe this is this.
Right.
Don't do a reactionary history point of view, but an overarching historical record.
Right. Just a matter of fact, no bias, right? Just observational kind of to your point.
I mean, you can definitely do the whole connections idea and say, well, this led to this, led to this, led to this. You can still do those claims, but it's not, matter of fact, dead certain.
Yeah. That's a really, so from that, because I really like the way that you think about things here. This is very intriguing to me. I like the cognitive approach, if you will. Do you think that people, so let's talk about truth, right? So you read about history. History is good because it's now, of course, it can be a biased recollection and documentation of things. But let's just say it is kind of what it is. This thing happened in this year, and it's black and white, right? Do you feel like the way that people talk and spread information now is too topical and not rooted in facts?
Yes.
That it is rhetoric, I guess is the right word, right?
It's exactly right.
Does that frustrate the hell out of you?
It kills me. It kills me. It almost makes me want to turn everything off and just revisit it in a year.
Yeah.
But then you're not really helping the situation, and you can actually get lost in what if something really bad happens.
Right, that's a good point.
So you kind of have to stay in focus. I guess what kind of turned me off to everything really recently was, we won't get political. We'll talk about that off.
No, yeah. But how about this? Is it being opinionated but yet rooted in fact and intellectual enough to build a really cogent argument, which is a major fault that most people don't have, is they can't actually build a lot. A plus B doesn't equal C ever, right? Is it hard for you to pull out and not get embroiled in that online kind of banter?
Yeah. No, I kind of look at, there is no, the far right and the far left will never be, truly correct.
Right.
You're too blindsided. You're like you're a racehorse, and you're just trying to get to the end of the game.
That's right, yeah.
You truly have to step out and kind of look at everyone's point of view, like America, like how truly everyone really thought of America. You need to take everyone's point of view and build it together.
Right.
Now, is that truthful for America? Maybe not, but that's the idea.
Yeah.
And the idea is what really binds us together.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you just kind of look back, you gauge everyone's arguments, and you kind of put it together.
Yeah. So you're pretty pragmatic, you'd say.
I try to be.
Yeah.
I try to be. Don't get me wrong. Every now and then I will fly by the seat of my pants
and
just be extremely impulsive, like moving to San Antonio.
But that ended up being a wonderful thing. You felt it. It was the right move.
Now, when it comes to a business sense, I've always felt myself. I read an article. It was actually in the European Economist in 2009. And I remember this article, I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
It pretty much broke it down. I'm going to paraphrase this, 15-piece document by this economist, where he said, people that stay in the same job and they stay in the exact, you stay in the same industry. That's not what I'm referring to, but in the same position at the same job for more than 2 to 4 years, you're going to become stagnant.
Yeah.
Your pay is going to become stagnant. Your level in the company is going to become stagnant. Everything's just going to stop.
Flatline. Yeah.
But if you work extremely hard for 2 years, if you work extremely hard for 3 years, you will continue to grow and grow and grow, and so will your pay.
Yeah.
If you leave that job, your pay typically
Will go up.
typically increases around 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
If you stay within that job, it usually goes up only about 1 to 2%.
Gotcha.
And then you're not only giving yourself greater intellectual activity, but you're also learning everything else that's out there.
Yeah.
And you're not staying put. You're constantly growing,
Constantly
evolving,
moving. Right.
learning what's out there. And bartending is no different. Like when I first, the idea for Paramore, the idea for Paramore was way before what Paramore was.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
I always told people, if you work for me longer than 2 years,
shame on you.
you messed up.
Yeah.
And you are not trying. If you work here a year and a half and work your butt off for a year and a half, there's no reason why you can't grow and evolve and get a better job.
Right.
Be either a head bartender somewhere, bar manager, beverage director, work for a liquor company, things like that. It's going to open up a tremendous amount of doors for you.
Yeah. Well, so here's a weird kind of trick question in a sense. We're
Yeah.
both married.
Uh-huh.
Madly in love with my wife, and this is the second time around for me, so it's slightly different. But if you're constantly devil's advocate here, you know I'm going to get at.
Uh-huh.
If you're constantly changing, you're constantly growing. How do the parameters of marriage fit into that for you?
So my wife is my biggest soundboard.
Yeah.
And she also has better ideas than I do.
Really?
Yeah.
She must be a brilliant woman.
She is, no, she's an incredibly brilliant woman. Like, if I come up with something, like, let's say even like small as a drink name,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell her, she'll tell me flat out, that's dumb. Or that's an inside joke.
Yeah.
People don't like inside jokes. People don't like something that people like things that are quirky and funny that they can relate to,
Right.
that are also
Communal.
inherently funny.
Yeah, okay.
But people don't like inside jokes between bar staff. People
Yeah.
don't like inside jokes between bartenders.
Right.
They don't get it because not everyone's a bartender. And if you want to make a vastly successful bar that does the numbers that you want to do, where you make a lot of money, you need to make it to where you're pleasing a vast amount of people, but you could retain your intellectual
integrity,
yeah. by getting everyone involved.
That's fascinating. So how long then? I abide by the same rules with my jobs and my career as well.
Yeah.
It's usually 3 years is typically the ceiling for me.
Yeah.
But sometimes the job changes so much, it's not the same job as when I started, and thusly it's like, well, maybe I can stick this out because opportunity, whatever. But going back to Bohannon's then, which is the Library of Congress of Spirits at the time.
Oh yeah.
How long were you there?
3 years.
3 years, okay. And you felt like you had maxed out in terms of what you could learn with that particular configuration?
Well, I had maxed out, but also when you have a gentleman like Sasha on board, I mean, you're talking about one of the top 3 bartenders and bar personalities in the modern era of cocktails. You have, come on. You have David Roth, you have Sasha, and then you can argue for about 5 other people, depending on who you're trying to promote.
Fair.
But Sasha's always there, and Dale's always there.
Right. Beatles, Rolling Stones. Easy. Yeah.
They're always there. Who's your Led Zeppelin? That's always going to be arguing.
Right.
But, you're going to talk about the Who.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, good point. Yeah. But one and two is always there.
Yeah, always there. Yeah. And when I was doing the barrels and I wanted to have a heavier influence in the cocktail menu, like, nope, we paid this much money. This is Sasha. You can run things by him, but this is Sasha's program.
Wow.
This is not yours. This is his. And I went, that's fantastic. But as long as I live in San Antonio, that means that I will always be a Bohannon's guy. I will not be my own guy.
That's right.
And I love that bar. It's one of my favorite places to go in and sit down and have a drink.
Yeah.
And they'll always have a place for me there. But I could have died in that place.
I know, but that's not you.
It. Yeah. I could have died there and been truly happy. But the first year we didn't make any money. The second year we made a decent amount of money. By the third year we were making a lot of money because here you had the same conventions coming back to town.
Yeah.
Doctors, lawyers, insurance people. They knew we're going to Bohannon's and we're going to drink this. We're going to talk to these 5 guys and we're going to kill it.
Yeah.
We had the same crew. We were all there together every day. It was like family.
Yeah.
But we all kind of got that same feeling, like, you got to spread your wings a little bit. And slowly but surely, we all kind of left. I always reached out to Chef Jesse Perez, who was coming back into San Antonio to make a place called Arcade Midtown Kitchen.
Okay.
So he was, definitely on the radar of James Beard. He was voted like the best Latin chef in the United States.
Wow.
He was a big deal, and he's from San Antonio. He was opening a place. He said, "You want to create the bar program in it? You got it."
Yeah.
And we did an amazing job. My team that we kind of put together. I mean, no matter what, we were always in the press. We were winning awards. We were having a great time. The restaurant was always busy. The drink program was killing it. We were making a lot of money for the owner, which was the chef. And it was great, but it was a step down in pay.
But more creative liberties.
But more creative liberties. And so I always looked at it, it's a step down. It's a step down in pay, but a step up in creativity.
Sure. And opportunity, too.
And so then I knew by doing that, someone else then would come in, and more as I knew, people just started lining up and offering things, saying, "Would you like to do this? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do this?"
Did you think you were good at that point? Did you think you were at any level of mastery yet?
No. And I still don't think that either.
Yeah. Well, because it's an eternal pursuit, right?
Yeah. I still don't think that either, but I was extremely happy for what we were able to do in the small confines of our space.
Yeah.
And,
makes sense.
I mean, our cocktail menu was always fun, always inventive.
Yeah.
We were able to do, tableside service for people, in a 300, and when we were doing 300 covers a night, everyone was having a good time. And so it was just a really fun time to be in a small bar and be creative. And so with all that occurring, we jumped forward, a year after we opened. I was actually in the process of building another bar.
Which one this time?
So this bar was going to be in Southtown.
Mm-hmm.
And we were actually looking at spacing. We already had, all of our paperwork in line, permits paid. We were getting all into it. And then that's when I met Martin, who owns Paramore.
Okay.
And he wanted me to come in and look at his space and build an event center.
Wow.
Pretty much take the top deck, turn it around to where it was a place where people could come in there, rent it, have a wedding, and he would make $20,000.
Wow.
I went up there and I convinced him this needs to be a bar. And I'm not going to do it unless I can build a bar.
Wow.
So how
did that conversation go?
It went. I mean, honestly, it went very well because I just said I'm going to do it or I'm not, and I just walked away. I mean, I looked at it as a unicorn project.
Sure.
If it did happen, it happened. If not, who cares?
Right.
But he came back. He started sending people in to see me, kind of scout me out, and then we would kind of just revisit the conversation. And finally, we sat down again one time. And the funny thing is how we first met was he came in the restaurant and he was in the restroom and his girlfriend ordered Happy 20 Old Fashions.
Oh, geez.
And I just went, okay.
Teach their own.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem making someone a $150 cocktail.
Right. It's good money for you.
It's fine. But I just want to make sure they're ordering what they're ordering. And I go over and I ask him, like, this is what you want? He's like, yeah, that's what I want. I went, no problem. So I want to double check. But when you're that wealthy,
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, no.
I mean,
just because there is an interesting inverse relationship between taste and wealth. Mm-hmm. Most people I know have really gaudy, odd, terrible taste that are rich, right?
And don't get me wrong, a Happy 20 Old Fashioned is fantastic.
Sure.
Is it worth the money? No, but when you have that much money, who cares?
Who gives a shit? Which is kind of a plague of modern.
Yeah, that's also modern America right there. The waste that we go back to.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, a Lady Burn 41 Scotch Shake is amazing.
I bet it's pretty good. Yeah.
God, we can get into that later.
But so how long did it take you before Paramore became a physical manifestation of this crazy?
After talking about it and signing a contract, it was like 4 months in. My first day was August 1st. And here I am going into this brand new, building and being told that everything's fine when it's not. we had to go back in and fix the building for a city, and that took a year.
Oh man.
So that took a whole year, but that's also where, I can never say thank you enough to Martin. I mean, I learned more in that year than I would have learned anywhere else. I learned how to build a bar from scratch, and I learned how to build a bar above the high-rise statute. So I always know, because everything changes once you get above a certain floor level, and it's much more difficult.
Interesting. I
So
hadn't thought about that.
I got to learn all that information while I was being paid to do it. So,
Going to school, man.
Yeah, I
Right?
was being paid to go to school. And,
Your doctorate.
and I soaked it up. So I can never say thank you enough.
Right.
And I always will say that.
So how long?
But then it took us a year and 25 days to open.
Man.
And the funny thing was, we still thought we were going to open Halloween of 2014. We'd already hired the staff. I'd already set the menus. I had already got the POS done. We were ready to rock. I had everything on order. We actually built a bar off site.
To practice? Like a staging bar?
No, I was trying to wonder, how do we get this bar built while we're waiting for permits? Because we're applying for permits.
Oh, I
and
see.
I'm like,
okay.
we got to be open.
Modular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually doing a riverboat cruise in downtown San Antonio. I mean, my wife and I, we loved playing tourist.
Yeah.
I mean, you go downtown, you play tourist, and do whatever you want. It's so much fun. I don't understand why everyone doesn't do it. But we're going by the riverboat, and we're passing the Hilton Hotel, the Palacio. And that was built for the World's Fair. That hotel went up in just under, I want to say 279 days or something like that.
Wow.
It was built off site, south of town, and was put up. Every room had the bed in there, had the wall fixtures, had everything situated. It was just put up like Lego blocks.
No kidding.
Just went up in a crane. And I went, that's how we're going to build a bar.
That's crazy.
We had the San Antonio Fire Department build the bar.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
so they built it off site, and we craned the whole bar in when the first day we got our permit.
That's insane. Wow.
Craned it in, put it together, ready to go. Then we get told we get our permits yanked.
Why?
Because the person that we had hired to help, applied for a remodel, not for a bar. So it was none of our fault. It was someone else's. And so then we had to go back and find out the entire building.
Jesus.
And it was the amount of politicians I got to learn and all the fun stuff I got to do to get that bar open.
Again, a degree in life in a way.
So we had to start from scratch and actually learn how to build the bar from scratch for the entire building. And when we actually knew it was going to happen, we thought June 1st and we thought July 4th and then August 1st. And then we knew it's going to happen by September 1.
Yeah.
I had the entire staff come in. The staff, they already knew they were working there.
Right.
And so they're working all over town. They've been promoting us for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, their bosses are like, you got to leave. We know you're leaving. You're just taking up space. We got to bring more people in.
Right,
so
right.
I'm hiring them. They're coming in as, laborers.
Right.
They've come in, help us paint walls, the bartenders built that bar.
That's amazing.
It was, a work of love. We built that bar from, what it was.
Yeah.
Like the things that we could do. Like the wooden walls, the painting, sanding all the benches, restaining things, doing the floors.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible.
Everyone put their heart and soul in that place.
Did you make 9-1?
We made August 25th.
Oh,
August
cool.
20
So
August 24th was our soft opening, and August 25th was our grand opening.
Wow.
And I could not believe the turnout we had.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first day we had 2 news choppers overhead. The news were in there doing interviews and displaying the space. And
Yeah.
it was just tremendous, thing.
That's amazing.
And I mean, it caught everyone off guard.
Yeah.
We had no idea. We're like, oh my god, what's happening?
Media darling immediately.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it just hasn't stopped.
So how long? When is this last transition? So when did you transition to this last piece? Because I want to kind of summarize the year or the 2 years you had.
I transitioned from Paramore. My last day was January 31st of 2017.
So just
Yeah.
really recently. And so how long had you been there? because you had the year where you were helping develop and build it. 2 years, 3 years,
2.5 years.
And it begs the question: why seemingly something that is so beautiful and so from your hands that you would leave?
Well, you don't own it. If
Right.
you don't own it, it'll never truly be yours.
Wow, it's profound. That's true though.
So-
Absolutely. So no equity in the deal.
They were supposed to be.
Oh fuck. Okay, got it.
They were supposed to be. But you'll never own it,
Yeah.
even then. If you really want it to be yours, you really want to take ownership and love it the way it should be. And if it's yours, then it's your idea.
That's right.
If you have someone else, they're always able to put in ideas, even if you disagree with them.
Mm.
And it was at that point, it was becoming a conflict of interest between what I think and what they think.
Wow. Contentious at best. Yeah.
Yeah. And so instead of just waiting for it to just boil over, wipe your hands and move
Yeah.
on.
Any bad blood?
No.
It's a good move for you.
Yeah, just move on. And at that time, I was helping the Azars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asked by them to kind of help out with their new facility while Cocktail Conference was going on. And so they're building an entire event center, distillery, tour
Tasting
piece
room
of their
and the whole
place. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So they asked me to kind of help them on. We kind of talked about it, and it just worked well. By that point, I was working 80-something hours a week at Paramore, and I had a month and a half in at Paramore, I had my second child.
Wow.
And I was only gone on paternal leave for maybe like 4 days.
Jesus.
I remember like
running on no
10
sleep.
10 minutes after my baby was born, I was getting a phone call.
Oh man. That's
Yeah.
that's at some point that's not the kind of dad you want to be.
No.
Right?
And that's what I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be that person that was glued to a computer screen when they got off work.
Yeah.
That first thing they did when they woke up at 7 a.m. from their kids saying, "Daddy, daddy, daddy," is I got to go check my phone.
Right.
That's just not the person anyone should be.
Yeah. You want to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and when you're trying to like maintain how you think something should be and how you want it to be,
Yeah.
you're constantly looking over your shoulder.
That's a good point.
And so I just didn't want to be that person anymore. I mean, I still have ideas of how stuff I want to happen, and that'll definitely occur in the future. But I wanted to step aside.
Yeah.
And so by taking the job with Azars, I didn't realize like how much I could love sales because it's just an easy transition.
Sure. Well, because it's not so different, right?
No, it's not different at all.
Yeah.
And especially when you have a great infrastructure that what you have with the Azars and a true family company, you're able to kind of get free reign as long as you stay within the boundaries to do what you want to do.
Right.
And because I don't know anything about like the liquor or the off-premise world where the liquor stores, but I've been, I would say, somewhat successful getting product in where we haven't been able to get in, just by having these relationships and helping the wholesale departments move more product.
Yeah. It's an incredible transition. And I get why, man. It makes a lot of sense. It's like my dad worked so much when we were younger. But what I got from it, what I gleaned from that is that working hard really does pay off in the end.
It does.
But at the same time, it's hard because he's always traveling and stuff. So it's a hard balance to strike. And it's cool that you're stepping over to this realm, the off-premise realm, the distilling realm, And you guys have I know Cinco vodka was kind of the staple product for some time. Is that right?
It was. So I remember when they first started, was pretty much when I first started in the business.
Yeah.
They brought their product into Bohannon's. They're a San Antonio company. They were making a European-style vodka, just south of San Antonio. And they wanted to put out the best product they could. And I believe they certainly did that.
Yeah.
We were one of the first accounts to really take hold of it. We put it in the well at Bohannon's and we ran with it. At the time, it was probably the most physical, smart decision on my part. Because usually you want vodka to pay the bills. And
right.
When you have a product at the time that was expensive, I probably wouldn't go. I would look back at myself 6-7 years ago and say, don't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I did it because we got the product out there. We learned a lot. It tasted great. San Antonio really took to it, and it is where it is now. And it's really impressive, to watch how they grew, and we all kind of just grew synonymously. And now they're, we just launched the Northeast, where we just launched into Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So the company's definitely growing. Here they are making this gin that people are afraid of gin. They're usually in my opinion, 60s, 50s, and 40s. They're still afraid of gin. They're not embraced. They didn't embrace the cocktail culture like all of us were able to.
Right.
They weren't really around it. So they're still thinking, vodka, vodka, vodka. But by making a new world style gin, which is typically light juniper, which Seersucker is, it's an easy transition piece. And it actually adds more flavor profile. And so people that are drinking vodka, they can transition into a gin drink. They can transition into a gin cocktail. But people also that are drinking bourbon or tequila can transition back into that drink and still have a lot of flavor profile.
So intentionally accessible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, the marketing itself, when we go back to that term that we kind of touched base on at the very beginning,
right?
The marketing is brilliant.
What do you feel shines so well about it?
Just the synonymous Southern activity about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Seersucker itself, when you say that term Seersucker, you're thinking, you're thinking the South, you're thinking football,
right.
You're thinking springtime, you start thinking flowers.
So already this kind of like historical kind of experiential connection to it.
I mean, the first thing I thought when I was like, I'm going to be working for Seersucker Gin was, oh my God, I get to go to every tailgate throughout the South. I can put on a Seersucker suit and act like Pappy O'Daniel.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
I'm just going to go politicking.
That's good. That's good for you.
Oh, I'd love it.
Yeah.
I'd love it. I mean, you could. My wife and I were actually trying to think of we're not going to do it now, but when we first started this whole, this new career move, was a alter ego.
I like that.
An alter ego that you kind of like define yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to become College Chris. College Chris is back.
Right. Oh, Jesus. I could see the poster now, the movie trailer and all that.
Oh yeah, College Chris is back, and it was kind of like at the same time I was going to do it. I was going to make fun of, like warm gin shots and trap
right,
people like that. I mean, they all have this great liquor persona that goes out throughout the country. And everyone knows them as that. And I was like, oh, I can create that and do that. But then at the same time, I was like, oh my God, if I bring back College Chris, I'm going to be divorced.
Where's Dad? Well, he's not spending the night tonight.
Dad's not here. Dad's in jail.
Yeah, he's in jail again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
become Jack Nicholson from Easy Rider.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Or 5 Easy Pieces.
Yeah,
either way, both or good, depending on what kind of Jack you like. But well, it's interesting, and so this all makes sense. This is a pretty interesting, but very logical narrative that I see, like in the things that you've kind of built and where you started. But the question for me is, I know you'll get back into the bar piece of it, and I'm sure you'll have your own place because it just goes without saying. You want equity, you want to build something, you want to own something, not have people question it, right? But the thing that I really want to ask you is, and I ask this of all the guests now, let's say that you are at any bar in the world, doesn't matter, right? Sipping whatever you want. Let's say some bourbon, let's say some gin, whatever. Who do you find interesting enough, either living or dead, that you would love to have a conversation with them and just dive in? Someone that you've potentially never had a conversation with before. Historical figure, if you will.
Theodore Roosevelt.
No shit. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Theodore Roosevelt.
Why Theodore Roosevelt?
His entire, even though you look back on it and it feels like hyper masculinity, it's really not. I mean, he was a very loving man. He had, he loved his kids. He took his kids on whatever adventure he was going on, but he shot by the seat of his pants in a very pragmatic, logical way. He knew exactly what he was going for. He knew exactly what he was going to be doing, and it was all had an end goal, even though it might, to the person just like looking back saying, what's this person doing? It had an end goal. He was always driving himself towards something. Yeah. Either being the New York police chief or being a cowboy out west or, hunting in, Montana and Wyoming.
Amateur boxer too, right?
amateur boxer. He explored, Amazonia.
Yeah.
He did all this stuff. And I mean, come on, being in San Antonio and going into the Minger Hotel where he formed the Rough Riders.
That's incredible.
I mean, it's right there with San Antonio lore. I
didn't realize that.
Like my second son's name is Theodore.
Makes sense.
So I mean, I remember that came to me because I got home one night at 5 a.m. From Paramore, and we were like trying to think of baby names. And I just turned the TV on, and PBS was on, and it was young Theodore. I was like, that's it.
Amazing.
Teddy. And then my other son, Beauregard,
nice.
We named him Beauregard because the bed and breakfast we stayed in San Antonio was called the Beauregard House. It was on Beauregard Street.
Man.
And when we were thinking of names, there was Beauregard, and then there was all these streets that were Southern Civil War generals and Southtown, King William. But we're like, well, we won't name the second one a Civil War general. We'll think outside the box a little bit.
Something more worldly.
Yeah.
Well, it's been brilliant chatting, man. There's so much to touch into, and I think we've done an amazingly comprehensive job. I just see you teaching someday. You know what I mean? I see you having a captive class, and I know you've done this. You did the seminar this year with Timothy at the San Antonio Cocktail Conference. That makes perfect sense that you're out there teaching, that you're out there, not preaching, but imparting knowledge, right? Are you going to hit academia again?
See, that's the one thing is that Tech has a RIM department, so restaurant hotel management. It's actually the top 3 in the country.
Really?
Cornell is always number 1.
Okay.
And number 2 is usually flip-flopped between UNLV and University of Houston.
Okay.
Conrad Hilton,
sure.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Coming from Houston. And then Tech's number 3. And they all kind of like flip-flop that third spot, and Tech's always right there. And I would love to do a cocktail class. But, getting back in the bar world, it's not really so much that I want to run a bar ever again. I want to own a bar.
Yeah.
Just so I can be my own beverage director. Just so I can go in, teach my staff, have my beverage program, and make the ambiance. But I want to put people that actually I can trust and believe in that are more physically sound than myself to actually run it. I would love to say on this side of the fence and actually work for a brand and promote it forever, and then just have a bar on the side where I can go into and, hey guys, try this, because I go around, look at everything in the world, and bring back new ideas.
It's incredible.
So, I mean, both sides have their pluses.
Yeah.
The bar side, it's the hours that start to kill you with the family.
Sure.
But if you can put people that you trust to actually watch those dollars for you, and you can actually train a staff. Training a staff in a cocktail is actually your biggest, saving grace for money, because you actually treat them to love booze, and by loving booze, you don't waste booze.
That's a good point.
It's almost like a built-in watchdog that's in the back of your head.
That's right. It's pretty shrewd. I didn't realize that.
So, yeah, you want to stay on, but then I get to stay on this side and push my products and meet people, travel, do fun things like this.
I know, it's so fun.
So there's great things to both sides. And I mean, I actually have a guy who told me one time, he said, the great thing about me when he was talking about me was that I constantly just swing for the fences.
Yeah.
And so
like Teddy himself.
Yeah. Just constantly you're going for it. You're going for it. You might fall on your face, but as long as you pick yourself up, you're going to be fine. And you'll continue advancing. You'll continue to make more money, which in turn you can, give better things to your children. Because, I mean, that's really what the world's all about, is creating a legacy for yourself.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, having a bar is awesome, but then being on this side of the fence and staying on forever is something I would love to do.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see what is next, Chris. I mean, it's been brilliant. We're sipping some old Fitzgerald 12 here. You tell me this is from the 90s? I thought it was newer than that. That's brilliant. This
bottle's from the 90s.
That's incredible.
So, yeah.
It's been brilliant chatting and really brilliant getting to sip some bourbon with you, mate.
No, of course.
Thanks for coming in. When are you heading back to San Antonio? Tomorrow or tonight?
Late tonight.
Got it.
Late tonight. I'm going to head downtown. We have an event going on at Twin Lakers tomorrow that my Austin counterpart will be doing, but I'm going to kind of help him get set up. but then go around, maybe hit a few places, say hi,
Yeah.
and then drive back late.
Killer. You better take care of yourself, man.
Yeah.
All right. Safe travels, Chris. Thanks so much for
Thank
chatting.
you, sir.
Well, there we have it. One of the great four founders of the San Antonio cocktail scene, Mr. Christopher Ware, has learned all aspects of this industry and is now entering a new chapter, in the sales side, learning about distillation firsthand, learning about regulations and TABC stuff with on and off premise sales. So best of luck, Chris, with that endeavor. I'm pretty sure at some point you'll be returning to behind the bar and you'll have a great, amazing, beautiful place of your own. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I kind of just want to do a podcast about politics. Yeah, I know it might be trite, it might be boring, but having Chris talk about the even-keeled nature of arguments and how you actually shouldn't use rhetoric, it's like talking to Socrates in some sense. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter where you think about traveling to next when you look at a map of the world on the wall just to your left, or if you're thinking, man, I don't know if these new Star Wars movies are going to be worth it or not, please keep dancing.